Okay, so slipping punches is kind of a confusing thing. It's very complicated, and it shouldn't be, but it is. And a lot of stuff in boxing is like that. It's very simple in theory, but actually using it can get very tricky. So we're going to take a look today at a way to practice the body mechanics of slipping. So if you're new to my channel, I work a lot of coordination and body mechanic type exercises to practice my boxing stuff. And I think it really will help you out no matter what level you're at to just constantly reinforce proper body mechanics when you're doing your boxing movements, okay? So to do this, we're going to stand basically completely squared up in like a neutral, just hanging out kind of stance, okay? This is your learning stance. This is what they use in Cuba and overseas in Eastern Europe to really work on their body mechanics and athleticism and coordination, okay? So this is how they practice their body mechanics before they start doing their normal kind of boxing routine, okay? So basically squared up. I might have my my lead foot might be like a ½ inch in front just for balance, but this is the basic stance here. Now for slips, this is what we're going to do. So for a slip, I'm going to shift over here, and I want my lead arm to basically point straight down like this. So I'm turning my shoulders, but it's basically all coming from the hips here. I'm turning my hip, my lead shoulder comes forward, my lead arm points straight down. Now from here, it's a slight hip hinge, slight knee bend. It's a little combination of both. You want to think down, okay? So a lot of this boxing defense stuff, we want to think down, okay? So that's what we're going to do here. I'm thinking down. So I turn, shift, and I drop down just a little bit so that my arm is about knee level. If I need to get lower, I can go lower by adding more of a hinge, but I'm not doing too much of a knee bend. I got this little bounce in my knees. I'm not squatting down like this. That's too much energy. Just hinging alone, that throws you off balance. But when you combine a slight knee bend, slight hip hinge, got a lot more balance, okay? So then we're going to do the other side. Shift over, arm comes forward, drop straight down, and then I hinge and dip a little bit so that my hand is about knee level, okay? Okay, so a lot of people do the knee taps, which you can do as well, but for me, I prefer the other way, because when I do the knee taps, what happens is my head tends to go way outside of my knee, which is bad balance. I don't have balance when my head goes outside of my knee like that, okay? So I like this way better because it keeps my head between my feet. So I'm training proper balance while I'm doing this, okay? But if you do prefer the knee tap method, just make sure that you like we did earlier, try not to let your head come out over the knee, but still work on that hinge and dip kind of motion instead of, a lot of people just kind of hinge like that, but then as you can see, the head goes outside of the knee, okay? Okay, so now that we've practiced the mechanics of the slip, maybe for a round or two as a warm-up, you want to do it from your stance. Now, something that might get kind of confusing about slips is I think a lot of trainers teach people to stand two-bladed, okay? So if I'm like 100% bladed like this, you don't really have head movement. I can dip and pull, but I don't really have the full slip. Look at how off balance that looks, okay? You can tell that if I try to slip forward like this, that my head's not really moving out of the way of a punch. And if I get hit here, I have no balance, okay? So keep that in mind. You know, the bladed stance has its uses. You know, we got to learn all of these positions. Think of these stances as positions.
Входить в ближний бой также можно разными способами.
Руки на месте. Оп. Хорошо. Раз. Шагом вперед.
Например, уклоном шагом вперед.
Оп. Хорошо. Шагом вперед. Оп. Вот сюда надо. Раз. Вот так. Посовывай немножко. Вот так. Хорошо. Оп. Маленький шаг.
Okay, so if you want to start practicing slips from your stance, just take that rear foot out just an inch or two. So you got a little clearance here. And now you can work on moving around and slipping from your stance, and just keep in mind the body mechanics that we went over earlier, right? It's a slight hinge, slight dip. And that's how we get our movement, right? We want to think down more so than out to the side here. Again, we want to keep our head between our legs. So it's more of a turn and drop down kind of motion, okay? Okay, so like the video, see you in the next one. And in part 2, we're going to go over how to actually use slips. So keep an eye out for that one. Peace.